I propose to move on to the broader aspects of the healthcare regulation. Basically, to analyze 4 important aspects. Number 1, why do we require control when we talk about healthcare? Number 2, what is the extent and ambit of that control? When we say control, what is being controlled, that you need to be clear. Third, the most significant one, what is that expected of a professional, a doctor or a nurse or you name any kind of, what is that is expected? And the fourth one, what is the contextual environment now? For instance, the role of state in healthcare and the private healthcare, I think we need to really look into and analyze what is the present situation. Okay? This presentation proposes to cover these 4 aspects. Okay? To begin with, if we look into in the entire realm of healthcare, these are the various facets which are regulated by law. Whenever we say law, either it could be the statutory law or it could be common law. Because unlike in other countries, we do not have a comprehensive one legislation pertaining to healthcare. No, we have so many laws, combination, bundle of laws which focus on healthcare. Okay? For instance, who are all covered? The profession is covered. When I say profession, I am not talking about the individual, please remember. I am talking about the professional standard. Who can do what? It doesn't matter which system of medicine, any system of medicine. The profession is subject to certain standards. There are bodies and accordingly they will look into. As a result, there is a law for that. I don't know whether allopathy doctors who are present here, have you heard about Medical Degrees Act? You may not be familiar. There is such a legislation which talks about what kind of degree, whether the such degree is allowed or not, whether it is legally recognized or not. Of late, the problem what we are facing is slightly different. That is, the degree holders who come from other countries. Our own Indian students, they go to China, they go to Bulgaria, they go to Hungary. I am not referring America, UK, Australia, New Zealand because they fall under a separate category. In all other countries, what we have to do, what kind of thing, Medical Council of India Act, I am sure you are aware the screening process, subsequent to the test, what kind of eligibility, all those legal issues, they are covered under the profession. Second one is professional and provider, means the person who actually renders a service. Could be a doctor, could be a pharmacist, could be a nurse or a diagnostic examiner, you name anybody. Please remember, majority of these aspects are covered under common law. Okay? There are some issues where the statute law is incorporated. For instance, who can undertake a transplantation of a human organ, transplantation surgery? For your information, the statute makes it very clear. Similarly, who can issue a kind of, I am sure you are aware, Transplantation of Human Organs Act 1994 has recognized brainstem death. Okay? Who has to certify brainstem death? Statute provides. That is Transplantation of Human Organs Act 1994 provides. Similarly, who can conduct a prenatal diagnostic technique? Amniocentesis. Who can do that? As a nurse, can I do it? Or as some other X-ray operator, can I do that? Or am I should be a doctor? If so, what qualification? All these aspects, please remember, some of them are covered under statutes. For instance, medical termination of pregnancy, it is covered under statute. But even then, we have some kind of problems here and there. Any gynecologist in this group? Yeah. For instance, the age-old problem affecting gynecologists is that whether hysterectomy can be undertaken by a gynecologist or a general surgeon. The law, as matter stand, did not clarify. Any orthopedician? For instance, whether a neurosurgery, should it be done by orthopedician or a neurosurgeon? Spinal surgery. If so, I mean, both you are doing. In fact, both of you put together, you do on the same patient. That's the practice. But an issue can be, no, should the person be either diploma D ortho or MS ortho, or should it be? These related interspeciality issues, they are not addressed, because of late people started realizing and raising. But otherwise, majority of these are covered by statutory law. You may ask a question, as of now, how are we deciding? Maybe some kind of common law principle you invoke and see whether it can be done or not. For instance, in your case, whether a gynec or obstetric should do or a general surgeon should do. I mean, in fact, one judge asked me in one case, I said, I mean, that's how I respond to the question. The issue is not who can undertake the surgery. The issue is whether to undertake surgery or not. That only a OBGYN can decide, but not general surgeon. You agree? This is what I told you, Foxy. The decision as to whether hysterectomy is to be done or not, a general surgeon cannot take a decision. But he may be proficient, he may be competent to undertake so that that particular part of uterus can be removed. Okay? Therefore, we need to really address a proper question in order to get a proper response. In fact, it was appreciated and accordingly the decision. Because in that case, the decision was taken by OBGYN. Because she was not available, general surgeon, therefore accordingly, I mean, that's how we need to. That is what I am saying, common law, some kind of unwritten rules, etc. Yeah.
Sir, you go from here to the United States.
Yes.
You cannot operate. You cannot come in contact with the patient unless, well, there are a few things, licensing and all that. They come here and, conduct CMEs all the time. They do demonstrate surgeries operating on patients here. What's the stand of law on that?
Yeah, in fact, the stand of law is very clear. But I'm extremely sorry to say, normally medical professionals never bother to obey the law. I'm sorry for my observation, but I mean it when I said it. The reason is, the Karnataka medical, I'm just giving MCA and state also because I'm familiar with KMC. It's very clear, even for the demonstration purpose, even for the public purpose, even for the education purpose, if a person who comes, I mean, from a different country where the oath, etc., of a different country, the person must be given a temporary registration facility.
This I'm talking of is the eye camps.
Okay.
And quite a few of the patients have lost their eyes. So now, against whom is the law going to take action? Is it the person who operates who has come from abroad? Or is it the NGO and the hospital concerned who has conducted the camp?
In my opinion, to begin with, the camp which was organized, either by the organization concerned or the hospital, they must be made accountable, because without complying with the law, that is without taking a temporary registration, you have allowed the professional from a different country to come here and render treatment. That is legal violation, first thing. And because you have not complied with the law, whatever that has happened, indirectly, you must make them vicariously liable. That is what is the need of the hour.
Then we can take the outside doctors to the court.
See, what happens is, insofar as the Consumer Protection Act or Indian Penal Code, doesn't matter whether the person is from different country or not. The only thing is, as the doctor very rightly said, whether his conduct is negligent or not. That is the only issue. You got the point. Definitely the doctor can be subjected to. Now, establishment institution. You know why I mention institution? Institution means teaching hospital, medical college, and they also render service. Establishment means a private hospital or nursing home. For example, corporate hospital. Institution means where teaching also takes place. Doesn't matter whether it is a teaching hospital or purely a nursing home or a private hospital. Hospital as such is made liable. I hope you are aware about that. A case can be filed against a hospital on various grounds. Suppose he is ortho. No pregnant mothers, but he conducts a scan. Is he expected to register or not? You know, Supreme Court of India made it very clear and categorical that any institution, wherever a particular device called ultrasound scan is used, doesn't matter for which specialty, for men, not for women, doesn't matter. The institution must be registered. The person who is using the machine must be registered. It is only because in India, we have reached a stage where the female feticide, the problem has become so acute. Okay? Here, not only you as an individual, your institution is also involved, establishment. Okay? If it is not registered, you can be prosecuted. Not many people know. For example, any kind of amniosynthesis centers, etc. The center must be registered. Then only, according to law, you can do whatever that is complied with. Whether we like it or not, in conferences and workshops, everybody says feticide is to be prohibited. But in clinics and practice, etc., what happens, everybody knows. I am not prejudging, but that's how the society is. Therefore, you have to have a kind of prohibition stating these are the things you need to comply with 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what is done. Yeah.
Whom, like, and maybe the institution is found to be guilty. Who takes up that the response? Because I believe the institution is made up of professionals or service providers. So still, doesn't it go back to an individual as a person?
Yes, that's a good question. That's a good question, because who is to be held responsible always depends upon the nature and the character of the institution. It could be a company, it could be a trust, it could be a society, it could be a sole proprietor. Depending upon the situation, we make, for instance, the first level responsibility is always for hospital administrator. Because by virtue of the job allocation, job responsibility, he has to say whether a particular registration is taking place or not, etc. And the other people who are the decision makers. For example, if it is a private limited company, naturally the managing director or the executive director who is held responsible. In that way, depending upon the nature and the character of the institution, like a trust or a company or a society or a sole proprietor or a partnership, we will take. Okay? Then comes service. The most difficult part of the entire health regulation is service. Service means the actual professional conduct which is subjected to legal regulation. For instance, the top one talks about your qualification, second one talks about the individual, third one talks about the place where you work, fourth one talks about the specific conduct. Professional conduct. For example, you undertake a surgery. The conduct that reflects in undertaking that surgical intervention is regulated. Many people think that, no, the professional conduct is not regulated. It's wrong. The entire realm of medical negligence liability is related to service. Anybody's service, it could be nurse, it could be doctor, it could be pharmacist, you name any. Just to give you the intricacy of this debate, I will give an example. It has, it is a live story, happened in Bangalore. I wouldn't want to mention about the hospitals, etc., names, doctors, identity, but what has happened, I will tell you. She is a faculty member of the same hospital. 2 children. Delivery was conducted, cesarean. Thereafter, tubectomy also was conducted. After everything is over, from operation theatre, she has been shifted to the observatory room. Everything is fine. Then she has been shifted to ward. Doctor came, everybody. Slowly she is identifying people, this, that. Then husband came running. Nurse was there, one nurse and one PG student, some other. He said, the doctor asked you to give this medicine. Then the nurse, oh, like that. She gave. That is an anesthetic drug. Within seconds, she went into coma. People started some breathing, etc. Then everybody came, etc. Nobody knows that a drug was administered. As a consequence, it happened like that. Then she had been shifted. She was on ventilator, this, that, etc. The nurse, honestly, she wrote in the register which drug she gave. Then the doctor came in. When she was searching, she realized that she asked, who asked you to give this drug? Husband only gave, and then you could have asked us. She said, I thought it is very urgent. You could have seen what is the drug. Nothing happened, etc. After 2.5 months stay, she died. Bangalore city. Now, really unfortunate that a person belonging to the same medical profession, meeting such kind of fate is inexplicable. Not that others it is okay. No, I am not saying that. Anybody, human life is human life. Now, the issue is, what is the role of the husband? What is the role of the nurse? What is the role of the doctor who conducted operation? And more importantly, how come the husband was given a prescription to bring a drug which is anesthetic drug? How come this practice is taking place? How anybody can get access to anesthetic drug? These are all very, very serious issues. But one, yeah. We don't know.
No, I think there is intent, because
I know,
definitely he might have get it from
Correct.
somewhere so
Correct.
that the woman would die.
I agree, but maybe, see, to tell you very frankly, that episode also has come. So many people said, no, after death of the wife, within 6 months he married some other woman and he had some affair. So many things have been said. But I am not looking into as of now. Okay, that may be possible. I don't dispute and dismiss that. But my concern is the medical litigation, medical law perspective. The issue is, how come the person is given access to such drug? I asked the management. You know what they said? Very simple. No, Jogaro, in the operation theatres normally what happens is, we use it thing and we ask the patient to replace it. You got the point? This information only you people know, not Jogaro. Because I am an outside. I do not know. Which means I asked doctor, if somebody is there, you are more worried about your replacement. And you never envisaged the replacement could be in such a manner where the patient is going to die. Is it not expected of your nurse to look into what is the drug she is giving? I will go and give, she will give. What is your responsibility? I will tell you the list of issues we have identified, everything focuses on service. You will be surprised to know a criminal case has been filed, a civil case has been filed, a consumer case has been filed, Karnataka Medical Council case also filed. Against? Doctors. And there is a case which is filed against, as our friend said, against husband also. Correct. My only point is to tell you, when I first heard about, because the doctor was my good friend, when he told me, I was speechless. Healthcare system, see, somebody day before yesterday in Patna, scissors forgotten. I am used to that. I am used to that. It's not a big deal for me. Similarly, in AIMS, towel was forgotten inside. We are used to that. In CNN IBN, I watch CNN IBN every day. That's what I am saying. We are not really, I am not made speechless. But this, I felt it's such a shocking incident. Bizarre. Can anybody think that in a system it could happen that way? Which means we are very casual, who takes the drug, who takes access to the drug, who uses the drug, and who administers the drug. Nobody knows anything. Everybody is there, they are busy in their own realm of activities. Service. Okay? Next come. Because he was asked to replace that. That's what he says. No, my point is, I appreciate your concern. I don't say that. But what I'm saying is, that's what he says. See, how can I be, no, what you are saying is wrong? I can't. Because as a neutral party, I need to look into a different way. In fact, I spoke to that person, this is the thing, and somebody said, no, he was working in this, he was having an affair, this is the thing. But one thing, the way they structured, it appeared like Ram Gopal Verma. Perfect. But whether it is believable or not, how do I know?
He must have read the book Godfather, in which they send the warning signal to the advocate itself, law of Omerta. Same way they do it. This doctor I have given you, inject it.
No, I'm saying, I am not ruling out, but what is the basis for me to draw such inference? That's what I'm saying. See, anybody, we need to look into the basis, no? After all, as a service provider, I must be ethical in my judgment. I can't just like that judge people. That is the problem, okay? Then comes product and device. The most important one, the drug you use, ketamine I said, or the device you use, your specialty, the forerunner in medical litigation in the country. I hope you are aware, if not, better you know. In India, the first specialty which has a lion's share in medical litigation is OBGYNs. The next one is followed by orthos. But orthos are in so hurry, they want to beat them, OBGYNs. So many cases, so many, majority of them, they revolve around product and device, the implant you use, the drug the kind of. Then comes infrastructure. When I said infrastructure, please remember, I am talking about generic infrastructure. The cases where the patient commits suicide, the cases where the patient was subjected to sexual assault, the patient were caught in the lift and dies, or in the ramp, something happened and thrown out and received injuries. All that kind of issues, infrastructure. Technology, the most important one. Many people claim, yesterday's CNN IBN news, one incident where the brain tumor surgery was done on a patient who was conscious. Yeah, yesterday. New Delhi Apollo Hospital. They claim it is one of the landmark, etc. I do not know what kind of. But the patient, I think 25% is left, 75% is taken out. He is able to talk, there is no problem, etc., etc. Lots of innovative methods, lots of, etc. We are not very sure whether that particular technology, that particular method is time-tested or not. Therefore, it is legal control. Then comes the most important, the entire thing, recipient. I did not say the word patient for the simple reason, for an executive checkup you go, you are only recipient, you are not a patient. Therefore, I said recipient means anybody, whoever receives, either a patient or a healthy person or even a volunteer, doesn't matter. The legal rights are there. That's where patient rights. Then comes the most crucial aspect of healthcare, insurance. Particularly with TPAs, etc., health insurance assumed a lot of significance. And finally, the research. All these aspects have been covered under the legal control. I repeat once again, some of them are statutory laws, some of them are common laws. Here I want you to apply your mind. See, the entire landscape of healthcare scenario in this country is transforming like anything. The role of the state in healthcare is dwindling and diminishing. You may ask a question, Jogaro, on what basis you are making such a comment? You know organization Sehat in Mumbai? Anybody from Mumbai? Yeah, Sehat, you heard about it? They have conducted a study. Very clearly indicated, for the last so many years, the budgetary allocation on public health, if you look into, it is dwindling like anything. And ultimately, we have reached a stage where there are states where the budgetary allocation on public health is less than 1%. The role of the state is dwindling. However, quite paradoxically and quite contrasting way, the market share is increasing like anything. That is the presence of private health. On one hand, the state is dwindling, the market is zooming. What is the issue and implication? The issue and implication is that, positively speaking, for example, in good olden days, some kind of cardiac surgery, you travel to California. Nowadays, you don't even travel to your own capital city. Suppose you are in Hassan, you don't even come to Bangalore. Tamil Nadu, you are in Madurai, you don't even come to Chennai. You are in Coimbatore, you don't even come to Chennai. Anywhere, the most internationally competitive healthcare, you will get it. Unheard in the history, take it from me. But there is one implication. The implication is only to those who can afford. Nobody else. If you can afford, you need not go to. On the contrary, now we have medical tourism, whereby we are asking foreign patients to come here. That is our infrastructure, that is our competence, that is the resource. But the casualty is a person who cannot afford, neither he can go to the state nor he can go to the private. How do we respond to that? That's where innovative methods and mechanisms have been worked out. They are not very successful, but a kind of attempt is being made. For instance, I hope you are aware, in Karnataka, we have insurance scheme for agricultural labor. Per year, they may have to pay 150 rupees or so, so that the identified diseases, hospitalization, surgical intervention discovered free of cost. Because many people feel that in future, the purchasing power or paying capacity on the part of the individual may or may not increase. It may take much longer time. Thanks to your IT, BT, what all, everything you add, it may take longer time. But when it comes to reaching the grassroots level, you have to do something by cross-financing. How do you do that? Through insurance scheme. It is very important that some kind of innovative measures need to be taken, because at the end of the day, I don't think we can take pride in saying we have the best of healthcare of the world standard, but whereas your own people can't afford it. That's the paradox we are. That is where legal control assumes a lot of significance. Please remember. Many people said, no, let them go to consumer court, etc. I say, no, there is a tremendous explicit prejudice against doctors' community. You know why? The patient, the public, generally they think that you are extracting money from them. You are squeezing money. You are not here to help them. As a result, a kind of prejudice that is developed. I am not justifying that prejudice, I am projecting that prejudice, please remember. That is the reason why, whether in courts or anywhere, generally when you talk a kind of, no, this is what you are doing, a kind of prejudice is developed. Why? The people feel that they are being isolated. They do not get adequate share in the healthcare delivery. And the government is not responding. They do not know what to do with the government. But on the other hand, every street corner you will see multi-story buildings which are hospitals which are coming up. I think that the kind of social paradox, I think we need to understand. That is the reason why in Kerala it started, in Karnataka also. For example, now there is a problem. In a hospital something happened. The baby died or mother died or whatever. I myself was a witness in one of the corporate hospitals for this. You know what happened? I mean, he claims that he is an auto driver. I mean, the person, father of a maybe 4-month baby, etc. First they have asked how much it comes to. They said 10,000, then 20, then it ultimately came to 60,000. Baby died. And he did not pay. Then they were asked, called, he came. He said, I can't afford. I asked you from the beginning on, this is what you said. Then the doctor said, how can I tell you, how can I predict how long she requires this, that, etc. I mean, those sentences are questionable because I know what actually happens inside. Whether that hospital has done it or not, that's a different matter. Okay. Then ultimately the person, the father said, you do whatever you want. I don't want dead body also, keep it with you, he left. That's the sharp reaction that comes because financial pressure. He said, what do I do with that baby? Leave it. I am telling you, such a sharp reaction of a parent-child reaction comes even at the cost of emotional loss because they are driven to that extent. I am not saying, again qualifying, everybody does it, every hospital. No, I am not saying that. But even 1 or 2 incidents, definitely they provoke your thinking. You really ask, what are we doing, etc. My dear friends, in that context, the affordability in healthcare, not only in this country, even in America, even in Canada, even in Australia, even in the first world, the most crucial public issue. I think we have already reached that stage, but we do not know what needs to be done. But these are all spin-off reactions which we are experiencing. That's where medical, the healthcare, it is slowly coming under larger ambit and control of law, ethics and regulation. Now, the withering role of state and expanding horizons of market, the paradox what I just mentioned. But this paradox is to be understood in a given context. Whether should we allow the state to wither away? For example, in America, whether state is it withered away? Or UK, you think the government will say, no, you do whatever you want? No, not at all. State is never allowed to seek withering away. No. State has to take the responsibility. That's where I think you need to really conceive new models of regulation. Because on one hand, the quality, the competency, we are very clear. But when it comes to the individual affordability, we have a lot of problems. As a result, medical litigation. In other words, the situation in this context mainly talks in terms of autonomy and accountability. Okay? But in between, our own experiential analysis indicates ethics and economics also, that is one in the private sector, a major issue that has come about. I'll just take few minutes in giving my dilemma. Ethics are always individual specific. They are addressed to the doctor as an individual. But one doctor told me, now Jogaro, I have a problem. The problem is, I joined one particular corporate hospital. But the corporate hospital, in our quarterly review meeting, they called me and said, for your specialty, neuro, the projection is 3 crores for the next quarter. Okay? 3 crores. Next quarter, the revenue should be 3 crores. The hospital should get, corporate hospital. Okay? Now he asked me, what kind of ethics I can follow, because in order to get that 3 crore figure, at least I require 2 to 3 patients who could be kept on ventilator for 14 to 21 days. You agree? Maybe government hospital, these problems are not there, because not many ventilators are there. Therefore, there is no problem. What do we do? That's where I have a very serious problem, ethics and economics. On one hand, we said the hospital is a service industry. It is an industry now. Which means, like Reliance Infocom, the next projection they will make it now. Next quarter, 200 crores. This quarter. Last year, this quarter, 180 crores. This quarter, this year, 200 crores. But where do you get, how do you get? Then he said, it depends upon the way you attract patients. Therefore, marketing plays a vital role. What kind of marketing? We said ambulance chasers, all lawyers are being called. But now healthcare industry, they have their own marketing mechanism. I hope I am communicating. Where do you find ethics? How do you practice ethics in this context? As a result, autonomy and accountability, they have become, sometimes you make a doctor liable, accountable, but he is made a scapegoat. The doctor is made a scapegoat. You know what the doctor say? If I practice individually, I will be in a position to practice ethics. If I join a sector, I cannot. Finished. Which means the kind of ethical obligation what we are talking, future after 3 to 5 years, they are meaningless. After all, who is the patient, what is the disease, etc. I am sorry for my observation. Your competence, your qualification, your expertise is not enough. You have to hear other voice also. Then only you can decide. Very serious problem. Yeah.
The ecological, social, cultural, and economic elements in legal system. I want you to think about that. What difficulties and compromises do you think might arise in our attempt to measure such factors for sustainability?
One thing I am very clear, that whenever you talk about ethical obligation on a professional service provider, it is something to be conceived in the cultural backdrop of a particular territory. There is no doubt in that. The socio-economic, political context you have to take into consideration, without which ethics will become meaningless. Number 2, the most significant one, in order to sustain this particular, every service provider is in a position to understand and shoulder the ethical obligation, etc. The changing contours and the context, I think we must realize. I'll give a small example. In your country, whether a doctor can advertise,
Yes. Yes.
no problem.
Yes. No problem.
In India, they are not supposed to advertise. You know why?
No.
The reason is, according to ethical, code of conduct, that amounts to soliciting patients. Therefore, it is prohibited. It is prohibited on paper.
But you can go around and do it.
Many people are doing. Code of medical ethics exception is only with the, no. I don't agree. Then that is not advertisement. Advertisement for purpose. For example, when you are shifting your nursing home, when a new doctor comes, or a doctor, I know that. But that is not advertisement. That is information. Advertising means splash. You want to undergo this? Please come in.
No. I'm talking about if you want employment or some sort.
No.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
No.
In Kenya also it is prohibited.
In Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Yes.
In India also it is prohibited, but many people do. What I am saying, sustainability. You know what? In India, healthcare practice is no longer confined to doctor-patient individual relationship. Now there is a backdrop of an establishment, an institution, a kind of lot of investment, crores of investment goes into. The moment you say crores of investment goes into, the management is worried about what effective return we are getting. If you put in such a kind of ethical obligation in the market economy, it is very, very, very difficult. I hope you appreciate it. It's very suffocating. On one hand, whatever ethics you are saying, it is impossible to practice. On the other hand, by making it a service industry, it is so difficult for us. No doubt you get investment to make this, that, etc. But the question even now, it remains. I think that's where you need to find innovative methods of a complementary nature. I feel the autonomy aspect is something is to be jealously safeguarded. There is no doubt in that. But it is very difficult to draw a line. In fact, if you ask me, the control aspect, this is what I fundamentally believe in. Control aims at order and protection, minimal opportunities of exploitation. You should leave the doctor with that kind of situation. If that is the case, I am sure the possible litigation can be addressed. The autonomy also on the part of the doctor can be addressed, etc. I do not know whether you are aware, recently Karnataka government, they have issued a circular stating that the rates for which whatever charges, either surgery or this, etc., you must put it on the display. Couple of times I went to hospital. To tell you very frankly, throughout I was kept in dark as to what is that amount I have to pay. Sometimes I thought it could be 5,000, I was left with 600 only. Sometimes I thought 1,000 rupees, I was asked to pay 4,000 rupees. I always felt that transparency is something which is the casualty. I know a lot of criticism about this process, etc. That is one way of creating minimal opportunities of exploitation. In India, as of now, we are at the crossroads, as matters stand. I am concluding. The crossroads situation is that, on one hand, the legal control is increasing. On the other hand, the private participation is also increasing. But if you look at the ground level of enforcement, there is zero level of enforcement. I think that's where a paradox. We always say that the doctor is expected to follow the legal, ethical, regulatory because so much of control is coming in. So much of control is already in place. If you do not know those laws, etc., you will not be able to. Maybe the situation today is zero level enforcement. I am sure as the days go by with the instruments like RTI, etc., people will become much more knowledgeable. And accordingly, they themselves will create a situation whereby your knowledge about these aspects becomes necessary. Okay? Yeah. Concluding.
I wanted to get maybe how you people do it in India. We've been talking about health professionals and mainly people who are, because us in Uganda we have those who are professionals, but we also have the other side of the traditional people. how do you handle when it comes to traditional people? Because as like in Uganda, you find that the people who are not on the traditional side may not advertise, but the traditional people can go, they go on radio and say, I'm able to heal this. When you come, I can heal this, I can heal this, my medicine is better, and that kind of thing. Do you have such a scenario here in India? And how do you handle that?
Yeah.
Like, is it incorporated under the laws or?
In fact, she was referring to quackery. In a way, the kind of practice which doesn't come under mainstream. Which doesn't come under mainstream, definitely. But one thing, please remember, even quacks also, they advertise phenomenally. In India, the social acceptance level, even for quackery, is writ large. As a result, rural areas, etc., many people, by following advertisement, by the word of mouth, etc., there. But in law, absolutely, the practice itself is prohibited. Even advertisement is also banned. But when it comes to, I don't know, local TV network, if you just look into either CCTV, etc., so many doctors' advertisements, so many. I mean, it is impossible to believe that the doctors do not. That's where I say, when it comes to the legal prescription, it is clear, but here the enforcement. To that effect, in India also similar situation. I just would like to conclude by saying my own personal experience. I was addressing one conference in South Down. We conduct a lot of CMLE, continuing medico-legal education. Lots of programs we held, etc. One doctor asked me a question, his own experience I am sharing with you. One patient approached a doctor. The doctor saw the patient, etc. You require X-ray, he said. Then he said, okay. Then doctor asked him to go to that X-ray shop to get the X-ray. But it so happened, he went to that X-ray shop and got the X-ray. Then doctor saw. Then he realized that he has not taken from this, but he has taken from that shop. Then he asked, now you see the X-ray is not very clear. Why did you go there? Why did you not go here? Then he said, already I have spent 110 or 120, whatever. Suppose instead of right leg, he has taken left leg, I understand. I have to take another X-ray. Same thing, etc. No, it's not very good. Go there and get it. No, I can't do anything. Such a seriousness is involved. Patient went there, got the X-ray and gave to the doctor. Now I am very happy. It's very clear. Now he started diagnosing. Immediately the patient started assaulting doctor, and the doctor was chased in the main roads of that place. You know why? The patient went to this X-ray shop, collected the envelope, put the old film and gave it to the doctor. This episode comes from our temple city, Tanjore. You can ask anyone, they will tell you. This happened around 8 years ago. Even now, the doctor is in touch with me because the doctor was quite innocent. He wanted me to defend him in medical council. But somehow I said, in principle, I can't take the brief because I am convinced what we have done is not correct. And if there is a grey line here and there is a possibility. But here, not often, the en masse, large process. Therefore, my only request is, when I said minimal opportunities of exploitation, I think it is individual. Whether there is control or not, there are processes, there are doctors even today. They may not even know the law, but still they do not encourage such things. I think we need to look into that. Okay?